Hello, this is Bruce Timm, producer.
James Tucker, producer.
Glen Murakami, producer.
Dan Riba, director.
And Rich Fogel, producer.
And here we are, Enemy Below, Part 2. One of the questions apparently the fans want to know is, why did we do two-parters? Why did we do nothing but exclusively two-parters? And the answer is, why not? Actually, we when we started this show, we knew that it was going to be much bigger cast, obviously, than the shows we'd done before with just Batman and Superman and Batman Beyond. We had this huge cast of characters. We figured if we didn't have at least two-part stories, nobody was going to have enough screen time to really make an impression. So we kind of just set it upon ourselves to have this series of two-parters so we could have basically hour-long stories to tell. And for the most part, I thought it worked really well. Very few of these stories feel padded.
Yeah, it took some adjustment to try and figure out how we were going to tell the stories, but things move along pretty well.
Also, from a production standpoint, it was just easier to reuse the stock and the materials we had created for part one.
That's true.
To have for part two. So
yeah, we could amortize some of the effort over two episodes.
Right.
I remember that specifically when we were doing like color design, approval and background approval. It's like part twos went a lot faster than parts one.
That helped with our budgets and schedules.
Yeah.
I don't know about budgets, but schedules definitely.
It threw off the schedule because we had to get
so
everything
much done up front.
Yeah, everything designed
true.
in the first part.
That's true. Yeah.
I remember that being a problem.
Yeah. Well, what about the show wasn't a problem? I mean, the show was just a series of problems, which I always say, half of creativity is just problem solving, but this show had a lot of problems to solve. So
I was grateful though that Cartoon Network let us do that because the idea of doing the two-parters was a real risk on their part too, and they were very supportive of that.
Oh yeah.
Cartoon Network was, I have to say it, they were a dream to work with, and they still are every step of the way with this show. We asked them, hey, can we run these shows in widescreen? Because at this point we were switching over to boarding and producing our shows in widescreen in preparation for the future when everything goes HD. And so we were already producing the show in widescreen. We said, hey, it'd be great to actually air the show that way. And, they were a little resistant to it at first just because it's unusual. But they agreed to, air the show, at least half of their airings up front in widescreen, which was a big deal.
And they really promoted those widescreens when they did show them in that format. It was really a special, presentation in widescreen, and it was really nice.
Yeah, and since these things were sort of conceived as mini movies, that widescreen helped give it that cinematic feel.
Definitely, and it was hard to squeeze 7 characters into a frame sometimes without having that extra footage on the side.
True, yeah.
So, it was all across the board, that was a good thing.
Yeah, and when you look at these things in full frame, they tend to look a little floaty or something like that, but it really gets good compositionally when you squeeze it down to the widescreen.
Well, a lot of people don't realize the first season that we did, like for this episode here, this was actually, we switched formats in between season 1 and season 2. This was actually done full frame, but with the widescreen in mind. So you're looking at extra, top and bottom of the picture. And then season 2, we switched over to the opposite way, where we actually were composing, the entire picture was prepared widescreen. And then for the full frame showings, they would actually crop off the sides. So it doesn't actually look wrong full frame. You're not actually missing any information, but you
Not
are
for
seeing
season 1. Yeah.
for season 1. Yeah, the full frames are fine for that, but it definitely looks better when it's widescreen though, when it's cropped in a little tighter. Just a rectangle's a more interesting shape than a square, So, but anyhow, but beyond that, Cartoon Network just in every other aspect of the show, they were just really, really supportive. They love the idea of doing an updated Super Friends type show. And they never gave us a hard time in terms of creative notes or anything. It's like they would literally, we were so used to getting, lots and lots of notes on other shows that, from the executives. And on Cartoon Network, we'd turn in a script or turn in a storyboard, and we'd get a page that would literally have like 1 or 2 sentences on it, like, "Wow, great episode! Can't wait to see it."
Yeah,
and that was the extent of the creative notes.
Encouragement. Whoever heard of such a thing?
Gosh.
Well, also, I think this was the first show that they had done where they were actually working off of a script, because they hadn't they hadn't done shows that were like these full half hour or in this case 2 parts, hour episodes, where they needed a script. Before that, they had concentrated on shorts where they did everything in storyboard and stuff like that.
Was this their first action adventure show that was produced specifically for them? I know they worked. There was a Johnny Quest show, but
Who knows?
hey, yeah. Well, anyway, it was a big deal when when we premiered.
No, but I remember them saying, we haven't ever read scripts before. We don't know how to read them.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
right.
They usually go by storyboard. So.
Right.
You gonna talk about this episode at all?
I suppose. Why is it good or anything? I don't know. I don't remember this episode very well. I'm kidding. I remember it very well.
That last sequence was all storyboarded by
Wasn't that Brett?
Brett
Blevins?
Blevins. Yeah. I think this is Joaquin DeSantos.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So here's one of the tricky things that we came up against all the time in this season or in this series is how do you imprison Superman? It's it's hard enough to restrain Green Lantern, but how do you come up with a restraint that's going to imprison both Superman and Wonder Woman and Green Lantern? It's like, so we came up with all kinds of kind of bogus pseudoscience. They've got these little headgear things on that negates their powers. It's like, okay, I guess that'll work, but it's tough. It's tough coming up with credible threats to these guys. So, and this doesn't make any sense. The people who live underwater, they would have this drowning chamber. But, it's cool.
What a worse torture.
I suppose.
For surface dwellers.
I guess.
Yeah, I mean, they do breathe air under there. That was a decision that we made.
Well, yeah, we kind of had to do that because we didn't want to animate everybody's hair floating, and we didn't want to have the Justice League wearing, stupid air bubbles on their heads. So, yeah. Well, I think they're both, right? They both breathe water and air.
Yeah.
They're amphibians. So... Even though Aquaman's the only one that we actually do see. No, actually, we see his men floating around underwater, too. That's true. That's a nice shot. It's got some nice scale. Isn't it Dave Johnson, BG?
I know he designed the
so.
subs,
That
didn't
might
he?
have been Revolt.
Did he design the ships?
Yeah, Dave Johnson designed Atlantis and
Oh, yeah, that's
the
definitely
vehicles.
Revolt design. So deco looking.
Which one will go first? My money's on the girl.
That's you, right?
Who, me?
That's your voice.
It was one of those guys. I don't remember. One of them's Phil Lamar, I think. And the other one's Xander Berkeley, I think. Maybe one of them was me.
I think it was you.
Could be. So the lady playing Mira there, actress named Kristen Bauer, she actually auditioned for us for Wonder Woman. And we thought she wasn't quite right for Wonder Woman, but she had a really interesting voice quality. Reminded us all of Michelle Pfeiffer. So we, when we came to cast this episode, we said, "Oh, hey, let's bring that Michelle Pfeiffer-y lady in," and she was really good.
that see-through costume was difficult to do.
Well, that was something that we actually attempted to do on a Superman episode, the Maxima episode, when she, a character named Maxima, stepped out of her bath into this diaphanous robe, and we were actually forced to change that because it was a little too revealing.
Diaphanous, huh?
A little too diaphanous, but it was. I thought it was kind of a neat effect, and I really wanted. I mean, beyond just being sexy, I just wanted to try it. I thought it looked.
Oh,
kinda
this is
neat.
the big scene.
Oh, this is the beginning of it. Yeah, this isn't the actual big scene yet, but yeah, this is the build up to it. But yeah, this is the big dynamic Aquaman sacrifice scene.
Getting rid of me won't make the people of Atlantis serve you.
I know. That whole lineage thing could get messy. Fortunately, I have a solution.
What do you mean? No!
Longtime viewers of our shows will remember that we actually debuted Aquaman in our old Superman show. He actually appeared in one episode of Superman, and he looks quite different in this episode. And in the Superman episode, he actually looks very old school. He looks very much like classic Aquaman that you might remember from Super Friends or from the old comics. In the intervening years between when we did Superman and when we did Justice League, we actually kind of came around to liking the new version of Aquaman that DC Comics had revamped in the comics. I don't think we ever really wanted to get into why he looks different, whether he's older or whether he's more bitter or whatever. It's just like, you know what? We did the same thing on Batman the Animated Series when we did the revamp episodes. We, didn't feel like explaining why suddenly Penguin, doesn't have webbed fingers anymore. It's the same thing with Aquaman. It's like he's the same character. He looks different, but, it's the way it goes.
A pity. The young prince will will be yet another innocent victim of the surface dwellers' aggression.
So there's a big famous scene here. There's a little squalling baby.
Sadly, that
This was a real fun
the rightful heir.
sequence to mess around with. I know it was a real challenge for Mike McQuistion, who did the music for it. I mean, I had some real specific ideas of what I wanted him to do with the music throughout the sequence. I told him, I said, you know, it's automatically going to be very harrowing to see a baby in jeopardy like this. But beyond just making it suspenseful, I wanted to have, you know, nobility and honor. I wanted it to play the emotion of the scene, and I think Mike did a really, really good job of making this not just exciting, but it's a real heroic thing that Aquaman does. I mean, the music is really emotion-filled. What's interesting about it is the theme that plays here in a second. Right there, that bit is actually a reprise of a theme that he created in part 1, which is actually the Aquaman family theme. There's a scene in part 1 where he's talking about, you know, his responsibility to his son and to his family, and like, what kind of a world am I making for my son? And it plays really soft and beautifully throughout that sequence. And then here he played it really big and grand and heroic, and it's really awesome. I think he did a great job.
Yeah, it really sells the scene.
And there, wow! Don't do it, Aquaman. So now that's a good shot of the city. That looks less, you know, just humanoid to me. And I like that big, weird squid type shape on the big, tall building.
It's like Vegas.
So now here, it doesn't look a little Vegas-y. You know, nothing wrong with that.
They should have Atlanta's casino.
Why not?
Yeah.
This was a tricky thing. Is like, how do we show that he's cut off his hand? Because obviously we weren't going to be able to be allowed to show blood. So we came up with the trick of making the kid's blanket red, so that you know, even though he's bleeding profusely into that blanket, you can't see it because
Symbolism.
It was already red.
Yeah, I remember getting that note from Bruce. He's like pointed his finger at me. Make sure that blanket is red.
Boy, that is a red blanket.
It sure is. Well, you can tell he's cut off his hand because there ain't no hand on the end of that stump.
Right.
But even so, no,
That's
that's
got to
cool.
be a first for a cartoon.
At least for TV, for American TV. This is a nice little painful scene too. And they're like performing surgery on him during this little dialogue bit.
This Bullock?
Nope.
Adam.
Adam
Van
Van
Wyck.
Wyck.
His own hand. Can't believe
Yeah, David Bullock
Storyboard.
wasn't working for us that first season.
Is it madness to sacrifice all for someone you love?
Can't you work any faster?
This is a delicate operation, my lord.
That's Phil
It
Lamar.
can't be rushed.
Doing the voice of the surgeon.
The creepy surgeon guy.
Superman. A situation's developed up at the North Pole.
And this is, oh no, Batman was in part 1. Okay.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
He was the one who put Aquaman in the big saltwater tank and everything.
Then let's check it out.
But what about
Well, this first season, we really played Batman like he really didn't have a lot to do with the League unless he absolutely had to.
We designed it to create a polar meltdown.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, he's supposed to not officially be a joiner, but
To protect Atlantis should the surface world ever
Yeah, well, he always kept saying that. It's like,
Yeah,
I'm just a part-timer,
he's
remember?
always
It's like,
there.
yeah, you're in every other episode.
yeah.
You're in more episodes than
yeah.
anybody else. Some part-timer.
Everything will be destroyed. Orm must be stopped.
And he will.
Very Shatner-y
Shatnery.
line.
Reading. What, the Orm must be stopped? The big pause after Orm?
Yeah.
There's only so many ways you can actually read that line.
No.
We were all surprised you actually wanted to do the hook hand.
The hook hand, I know. Well,
It was your idea to change the design.
I love this music cue too. I love the bit when he jumps out of the water. It's really cool. The whole score of this whole last part is really, really cool. I love those trombones. It's real manly. It's very Conan.
This is my battle. No one asked you to fight
I
it.
remember in this episode, Andrea Romano, the voice director, was saying that this was like, had so much testosterone in it that Orm and Aquaman were just like these dueling macho guys.
Oh yeah, these two guys, Scott Rummel and Richard Green, have two of the most manliest voices imaginable. You'd never know. You can never tell that both of these guys do a lot of like movie trailers and stuff. But now, one man.
Soldiers of Atlantis!
Well, Xander Berkeley, he's no wimp either. He's got a pretty nice, nasty voice too. So this was one of the biggest scale action adventure set pieces that we had done up until this point either. When I look at it now, I think, we do stuff like this in our sleep. But I remember at the time, this was a real challenge for us. Especially the water battle was like, we'd never really staged anything that had that many players in motion at the same time before. And we didn't know if the overseas animators were going to be able to do it. But they pulled it off, and so that encouraged us to go crazier. And I mean, that
Look
water
at that
animation
water.
is
It's
really
amazing.
nice.
Yeah.
Really nice.
This is probably the crispest copy I've seen of this show.
So this sequence was boarded by Adam Van Wyck, who
Yeah.
quickly became one of our most valuable players on this show, because sometimes the script would have certain bits of action explained in it, but a lot of times it was just like, okay, that's not far enough. We're gonna have to like go even further with it, and you really relied on the storyboard guys to come up with bits of business and big set pieces that that plussed even what was on the script. And Adam could always be relied upon to give you more than you needed.
Way
Adam would
more.
he would routinely turn in a storyboard that was, I'm not kidding you, 5 times too long.
Oh yeah.
And you'd end up just cutting tons of it out.
This is it. This is the part that I loved when I saw this in the script.
What, the Free Willy bit?
Yeah, I
Oh,
thought it was hilarious because throughout the whole show, we were waiting for Aquaman to do an Aquaman-y thing, and it was like our that's Aquaman.
Yeah, we didn't show him doing the telepathy circles, but still, it's cool.
Yeah, it reads.
Oh, it works better this way.
Yeah.
This one instance. I mean, we did that later when we did Aquaman. Yeah, we were kind of playing John as kind of a butthead back then too. This is one of the early on in the season, we were still kind of like figuring out how to make these characters instantly understandable. So so John was probably played a little rougher than we intended to, but you immediately get it. It's like, oh, he's the hard-boiled Marine, so. And his beef with Aquaman, I think, is motivated by character, because he is a military guy. He would certainly be not exactly all that trustworthy of foreign kings and stuff.
Well, all the characters are a little broader, but I mean, I think that plays into when any group of people first meets each other, they're a little more,
One-dimensional.
one-dimensional. There's not as much subtlety going on in the relationship.
Yeah, it's first
the
impression
relationships.
time.
Yeah.
Right.
So everyone's kind of on their guard a little bit. So.
Right, and then you deepen it as they get to know each other.
Yeah, because everyone in the first season's kind of formal with each other. I mean, except for Flash, but he's never formal. So
It's over.
This melting the ice cap bit was something that Kevin Hops, who wrote this episode, brought to the table.
And that's a Paul Revauche machine, if ever I saw one.
The tide is against you. The reactor can't be shut down.
No, that was a good contribution of his. It's a good way of escalating the threat. So
Well-
it's not just about Aquaman; it's about threatening the world.
Right, and that was the challenge with it, and one of the reasons why we didn't have Aquaman in the regular cast to begin with was that we needed to do things that related specifically to his world and his needs and things like that, and really do something special with him. And I think this answered it, because there's the sort of court intrigue stuff that's happening underneath the sea, but then there is a real effect to the surface world that makes it so that it's imperative that the Justice League get involved in it.
Sure. I mean, I still think that we could have included Aquaman as a part of the regular cast. It wouldn't always have to revolve around his kingly duties as that's like saying, oh well, if Batman's involved, then it has to be about Gotham's in jeopardy. It's like, no, I think we could have. If we'd really wanted to, we could have made Aquaman more of a team player, but he works fine this way. And not only that, but he's such a strong character that I think he would get kind of grating if you had him there all the time. Either that, or you'd have to tone him down. It's like if you look at like the characters on MASH, those first couple seasons, they were all really broad. Hot Lips was, one-dimensional, and Frank Burns was really one-dimensional. And, later on, once those characters were around long enough, they said, you know what, we're tired of playing the same one note over and again, over and over again. You got to give me more dimensions. So the characters became more multifaceted, and some might say a little bit less interesting. So that's the problem we would have had with Aquaman. It's like he's much more interesting when he's just full strength. So this is an unusual bit. This is clearly not a Super Friends moment, letting the bad guy fall to his death. His brother.
His brother, no less.
Yeah, that's cool. No, it's clearly new school Aquaman. That's
Okay.
very cool.
I boarded the drop.
It looked like you were drawing. Going blue must be good. I like that dot effect in the Revoche machine there. That looks like something that it's like a very Jack Kirby kind of thing. Is that something we reused from Superman? Was that from the Scream machine?
It is. It is. Sent them the same material,
From Father's Day.
but they added some bottom light.
It was very cool.
Surely you must know, my lord, our loyalty belongs to you.
We talked about bringing Orm back. I don't know why we didn't, but
Well, we weren't. I don't think we were going to bring him back as Ocean Master, were we?
we talked about it. I
Did we?
did some designs on it, but
It's the tricky thing is that the name Ocean Master just it's
Right.
one of those things that looks good in a comic and you don't think about it until you say it out loud, and it's like he's going to call himself Ocean Master.
I assume he'd just be Orm, but because he's probably disfigured now.
True,
something, so.
or bent
I don't know.
backed or something. But then the other part is like even his visuals kind of really goofy. You know, he had that really weird, what was like a squid head or something. Helmet.
I'd probably just modify it, make it a Phantom of the Opera kind of thing.
But some sacrifices are worth it.
All right, well that was fun. Bye.
See ya. Adios.
So long.
Out of here.